Chapter 13. Saturday morning. Sleeping in fits and starts, she woke up the next morning at 6:30 and groaned because, as far as her body was concerned, it was time to get up, whether she'd gotten enough sleep or not. Who woke at these hours? Especially on a Saturday? Her mind was foggy, and everything was hazy. Still, she got up, dressed, and went downstairs to put on some coffee. She looked out at the backyard. So many plants and bushes were thriving out there, even with the past neglect, that she didn't know what to do. Because right now everything felt a bit too much. She didn't know where her normal love of life and excitement had gone. But she figured it went with the hours of sleep she was supposed to have, but didn't get. She opened the back door and stepped onto the porch and stopped. She stepped back inside, picked up her phone, and called Mac. "Now what?" he asked. "Can't a guy get any sleep?" She winced as she realized what time it was. "I'm sorry," she said hurriedly. "I propped up kitchen chairs at the two doors, like you told me to." She took a hard gasping sob. "Hey, easy. What's going on?" he asked in concern. "Well, I just opened the back door and stepped out." "And," he snapped when she hesitated. "The chair I had propped up at the kitchen door was gone. Somebody had moved it. Somebody was inside my house when I put those damn things against the doors, and then they moved one away from the kitchen door to get out. Stay right there. I'll be there in 10. She stood with her hands trembling, holding the phone against her chest. The dog wandered around, completely unfazed by anything, or so it seemed. She wasn't even sure what the heck she was supposed to do now. The coffee was about 20 feet away, and it seemed too damn far. But she badly needed a cup. Her head spun. She had touched the doorknob, which was probably a stupid thing to do. Her breaths came hard and fast, and her panic alternated from rising to falling as she waited for Mac. She knew it would be at least 10 minutes, because he didn't sound like he was out of bed yet. But true to his word, 10 minutes later he rolled up the driveway. He hopped out and came through the front door. Or he would have, except she hadn't unlocked it. He pounded on the door. She cried out, "I'm here. I'm here. Give me a moment." She moved the chair from under the handle and let him in. He sighed. "Come here." He opened his arms. She fell into them and burrowed deep as his arms closed around her. She knew he could feel the trembling up and down her spine, but she had no way to hide it. It had been a truly scary moment to realize somebody had been in her house. And she had no idea who or for how long, or even what they did while here. So let's start at the beginning. He led her to the kitchen, where he could see the rear kitchen door on his right and the front door on his left. "So you propped up a chair," he pointed to the one near the front door, "and you did the same to the back door, correct?" She pointed to the chair closest to the table. "I put that one under this door. And then I went to bed." "What made you do that?" "I was in bed," she said, "and I thought about getting my laptop. I came sneaking down, though I didn't know why I was sneaking. I was really angry because I felt like I had to sneak. So I stomped my way back up the stairs. But at the top, I thought I heard a noise, like a door shutting down here. And Muggs heard it too. He sat up, caterwauling. So I came back down, grabbed the fire poker, and searched the house. We couldn't find anything but," she said, frowning, walking over to the big hutch. "Muggs stood in front of this hutch and barked at it until I opened one of the doors to show him it was empty." "This one?" Mac asked. He stepped forward and threw open the double doors. Inside was just shelving on one side and hanging closet space on the other. "Exactly," she said. "That's what I saw last night. Of course, I only opened half of it." She stared at the other half that was for hangers. "I suppose he could have been hiding in there, but Muggs wasn't barking then." "What did Muggs do then?" "He watched as I put the chairs under the doors, then I went upstairs again," she said. I didn't sleep well because I kept waking up. And I kept having, horrible nightmares. I finally came down, put on coffee. I opened the back door and stepped out, and that's when I realized a chair should have been there for me to move first. He nodded. Okay, so you had a midnight visitor. You don't know when they arrived. Were you home all last evening? She gave him a shamefaced look and shook her head. I was thinking as soon as I left that I shouldn't have left, because what if Fen Gunderson had said something about the antiques in the house? What if this guy was coming in to check it out himself? Considering the size of this furniture, he said, looking around the living room, there's a good chance he was doing exactly that. Which means your house is now a major issue. But he couldn't have taken anything with him without some help, and without waking me up, she said. I really didn't sleep well. Unless it was small, he said. She gasped and ran into the living room. She stopped in the middle with her hand against her chest. Oh, thank God. What? She pointed at the antique table in the corner. That thing is supposed to be extremely valuable, she said. I don't remember how much. So many figures are rolling around in my head, but I think Fen said it was like $7,000 or $8,000. What? She nodded. I'm scared to even touch it. For all I know, a fingerprint decreases the value by $2,000. At that, he chuckled. Hardly. Nan has abused that little table for years. Plus, fingerprints can be buffed away. I know, she said, but now I'm really scared. You took pictures yesterday, didn't you? Relieved, she nodded and pulled up her phone. I photographed a lot of stuff, some of the smaller things and all the bigger pieces too. So let's walk around and make sure the pictures still match everything. It took them an hour to check that everything was still here. When Mac was satisfied, she put away her phone. I should have thought to do that myself. 2 heads are better than one on something like this, he said. Besides, at least now you know he didn't leave with anything. Probably because you heard him. So what that means is, we now must ensure everything is secured. I need to get the appraisals done. You won't get that done quickly, Mac said. It'll probably be a couple days. I don't know that anybody is local. Fen mentioned an auction house, a big one. But I don't remember now. It sounded like a woman's name. She frowned. But that can't be right. It's Christie's, he said. That's a big one. And if they're interested in all this, you should do well by them. That's what I'm hoping, she said. But I don't know how much commission they take. What you take away is still more than you had with all this just sitting here. At least they'll bring in the right buyers. Okay, that makes sense, she said. But what do we do to get them in now? Just then her phone rang. It's Fen Gunderson, she whispered. She answered it. Good morning. Good morning, he said. I contacted the appraiser. He wants to call you this morning. Okay, thank you, she said. By the way, did you mention to anybody that I had these antiques? No, he said. You don't stay in my business for long when you open your mouth. I didn't mention it to anyone but the appraiser. Not even in passing that you were coming to look at Nan's antiques? No, why? His voice was loud. I had an intruder last night, she said. And I wondered if it was related to the antiques. He gasped. Oh, my dear. Are you okay? She nodded. I'm fine. But now I'm really worried about the antiques. If word gets around a lot of money is tied up in these pieces, then I'm in trouble. Yes. Yes, you are. You should contact a security company, he said. I did think about that earlier. Okay. I can check that out while I wait for the appraiser to contact me. What was the name of the auction house you were talking about? Christie's. The appraiser will help put you in contact with them. They'll need to have photographs. Then they'll probably send somebody out to verify the pictures. Also to see if any provenance can be found on any of these pieces. Right, provenance, she said. That's what you told me about yesterday. How, if I can prove the history of any of the furniture, then it's worth a lot more. Exactly, my dear. So talk to Nan. After he hung up, she turned to look at Mac. He says he didn't speak to anyone. The appraiser is supposed to call me this morning. Okay, he said. I'm not sure what to do about keeping you safe though. If Fenn's correct and that much money is tied up in here. He shook his head as he looked around the room. This room is absolutely stuffed. I know, she said, but the thing is, we didn't really take note of this stuff when Nan lived here, like any little old lady's house. But now that I'm here, and I'm looking at it all, and it doesn't suit me, so it seems like it's just old stuff. And you're cleaning out already, he said. You've already done one bedroom, didn't you? She nodded. And I'm working on the second one now. I might know a couple guys who would be willing to do drive-bys past the place, he said. I don't think I can get any budget money to have the cops do it. The trouble is, the more people you mention it to, the quicker the news gets around. According to Nan, everybody already knows everything before the media does. He nodded. That's very true. We'll see what we can do though. In the meantime, I have a murder to solve. Yes, you do, she said. Did you ever find the boyfriend, Josh Hubert's? He shot her a sideways look. She nodded. Of course you did. But not the way you think, he said gently. She frowned at him. What do you mean? He was the DB at the scene. It took her a moment to figure out what DB meant, dead body. Oh my God. You mean he's dead? He nodded. Looks like a self-inflicted wound. So he kills his girlfriend, dumps her in front of the family planning center, goes home and shoots himself? It almost made sense. As Mac rolled his shoulders in a big shrug, she realized it was probably something he'd seen many times. I don't know, she said. That seems like a lot of effort to then turn around and take your own life. It depends, he said. You know, people in a rage often do things they regret. These two were known to have had a very volatile relationship. But it's very cold and calculating to dump her body on the grounds of the family planning center, she said, and then to return to the house where he shot her just to shoot himself. That takes it from passionate rage to very clear thinking. Wouldn't he talk himself out of suicide at that point? Plus that wouldn't work according to the gunshots I heard. 2 and then 2, right in succession. So, unless you found more bullets. I don't think that theory will hold. Forensics is on it, he said. But that is what it looks like. We have to wait for the coroner to get back to us with his ruling as well, of course. She was happy for him if it was solved so quickly. It would be nice if it was an open and shut case. What about the vehicles? Did you find those? He nodded. They were parked in the back. It would be nice to have a quick close to this, so don't go making trouble where there isn't any, he warned. She gave him an innocent look. Don't know what you're talking about. The other thing you could do potentially, he said, is rent a storage locker and put all this stuff in it. Sure. And how will I pay for the storage unit and who'll look after the storage locker? She asked. Good questions, he said with a laugh. But at least those units are behind locked entry gates, and you would have a lock on the storage container itself. She frowned, not sure how she felt about it. Maybe. I'll think about it. You do that. In the meantime, I'll send somebody around to see if we can grab some fingerprints. She brightened at that idea. That's a good thing. Check the chair and the doorknob and the hutch. I don't know what else. Obviously mine and Fen Gunderson's are all over the place. He nodded. Okay. I'll see you in a little bit then. At that, he took off, not giving her a chance to ask why she'd see him again. In the meantime, she would get some food and that coffee she had forgotten about. Because as soon as that local appraiser called her, she would need all kinds of information from him.